Just continue to talk amongst yourselves. We'll be ready in like, 50 more minutes.
Mike's went away. Hang on a second.
We came out here and there was a man furiously picking mics up. I don't know what's happening. All right.
You better grab a sheet. Sorry. Okay. Let's see. Here, you can see it. I'll share with Vic.
Okay. Who's sitting here?
Okay, everybody else here with me.
Yeah. Wait, so am I switching here?
Whatever you want to do.
There's nobody next to me.
We got candy. Who wants candy?
Do I get my own?
Oh, you get your own mic.
Oh.
2 of your dreams came true. Everyone else, I'm sorry. I don't have strong arms.
Should we like?
You dream buster.
Nobody wants to sit next to me.
I just want you all to know that we have notepads, like we're going to take notes.
If Tech could turn on the wired mic all the way to stage left.
It's true. It's true. Yes.
It essentially became a race to write, someone smells first. It's Jess. Just kidding, I love you.
I sense fatigue in this room.
So I don't know.
Are you tired? Have you done the weekend properly? Are you tired? Are you a little tired? Are your voices a little tired? And then you did it right.
Yeah.
Welcome to the last day of RTX 2017. How you doing? And if Tech backstage could please turn on the other wired mic, we'd really appreciate it. Anyway, yeah, welcome to the voice acting for animation panel. My name is Gray Haddock. I'm the head of Rooster Teeth Animation. I used to voice a guy named Roman Torchwick. I guess I still kind of do on Chibi. And Locus and Doyle for RVB. And a whole bunch of stuff for a whole bunch of other companies, anime and movies and stuff like that. But let's just go down the row and introduce ourselves.
Hello, I am Lindsay Jones. I voice Vanessa Kimball in Red vs. Blue. Thank you. Space Kid in Camp Camp, and Ruby Rose in Ruby. Space Kid! Me too.
My name is Michael Jones. I play Max in Camp Camp, Sun Wukong in Ruby, and tiny little parts of background characters in real animes that I'm not good enough to be the main character in.
Hey, I'm Shannon McCormick. I'm the voice of Agent Washington. Professor Ozpin and Ruby Quartermaster, and other assorted quarter family members in Camp Camp, and then a bunch of other things in other titles and properties. So thank you guys.
Hello, I'm Jessica. I voice Cinderfall.
Boo!
I also do the
kidding, I
voice
love you.
of. Who? Who's talking smack? I also do the voice of Supersonico for the English anime and game dub, and I do some other things that I can't talk about yet. Woo!
Hi, my name is Miles Luna. I voice David in Camp Camp. I voice Jean Arc in Ruby, and I am Cronut and Felix in Red vs. Blue.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vic Mignogna. I'm the old one here. I've been doing this for a long time. I've done over 300 different animated series, video games, Full Metal Alchemist, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Digimon, Naruto, Bleach, or on High School Host Club.
Kiss, kiss, fall in love.
And I love all of you commoners. But no, I am and Crow in Ruby. And I just want to tell you guys how much I love being here. I love this spirit. I've heard so many great things about RTX for years. And I thought, damn it, I want to go. But I wasn't a part of anything. And so I was so privileged to get to be a part of Ruby and then to come here and meet these amazing people that do what they do out of passion and love, which is the only reason to do anything, I think. And so, sorry, but I'm so happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
I know, right? Thank you for being here. This is so cool to sit next to you. Hi, everyone. My name is Jen Brown. Oh, that's so nice. I'm Agent Carolina on Red vs. Blue. I am Pyrrha and Lisa Lavender on Ruby. I am Arid on Camp Camp. Harley Quinn for DC Universe Online. I think that's about, day 5, but that's not voiceover. Stuff. I do stuff. I do a lot of stuff.
Hi, I'm Sam Ireland. Hello. I was CT on RVB, and I play the Flower Scouts on Camp Camp, all 3. And I play Nora on Ruby.
Yay!
Please say that again. Just say Nora.
Nora!
That's totally going to be my ringtone. I'm making that my ringtone.
Getting goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm loving seeing everybody. This is fantastic. Like, if you hadn't figured it out, we actually hardly ever cross each other's paths. Everybody gets recorded one by one at the booth, or like in Vic's case, from California. But anyways, yeah, it's fantastic for seeing everybody. Thanks for coming out today. Yeah, I thought that we would just talk for a bit about what it's like to voice act. How do you get into your characters? How do you get into different characters? And how did you guys get started? You know, where, you know, some folks, you've been doing it as a full career. Some folks kind of stumbled into it. So let's just talk about how you guys got into the biz. Want to go first?
Monty Elm was like, yo, you want to be in my show?
Same.
In all honesty, for a lot of people within Ruby, and that's kind of the beauty of it, is we started because we were connected to Rooster Teeth, and Monty had this vision, this idea of what he wanted the show to be, and he wanted that to include his friends and coworkers. So for us, we were privileged enough to have him come to us and say, hey, I would like you to audition for the part. And he approached me and said, I think you would be good for Blake or Ruby, I'm not sure which, and then we auditioned, and he said, okay, Ruby would work, and here we are.
For me, I kind of had a similar thing where, I watched anime and played video games ever since I was a kid, and it was always something I really was interested in and wanted to do, but never really pursued beyond making fun of a lot of people on Halo 2. I feel like that's where a lot of my voice acting first started. Thank you. And, you know, starting at Rooster Teeth, I had the opportunity to have a couple of small lines in Red vs. Blue, and like Lindsay said, you know, when Monty was creating Ruby, he had a small part that he wanted, you know, me to try out for, and it really started from there, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I tried to pursue it a little more, and I was fortunate enough working at Rooster Teeth and to able to get an audition at Funimation, and ended up getting the part of Sting Eucliffe in Fairy Tale. Yeah. So I've been doing that for about 2 years now. So I kind of grew from there, you know, meeting other directors and just doing little parts here and there and background characters and stuff. And I'm just trying to learn as much as possible every time I, you know, meet a new person or have a new role or something like that. So I still have no idea what I'm doing.
So my first professional voice acting gig was I did a bunch of dubs for the now closed, lamentedly, ADV studios that were here in Austin. They did anime dubbing back in the late 90s, early aughts. I did Akabane in Get Backers was like the first big role that I had. I had some smaller roles before that. And the really cool thing was I'm a theater actor and a improv artist, and the people who ran that studio were all Austin theater people, so they just hired all their actor friends to come do dubs for them. And then that led to getting an audition with Red vs. Blue, and I thought it was just a one-day gig. And here I am 10 years later, I'm still doing...
You're trapped.
I'm trapped. I'm so over it. But the other question is, like, when did you start? And I always tell people, like, I was doing dumb voices from before I can remember. There's like a family story of me running around the house when I was like 2 and a half, quoting lines from Friar Tuck in the old Disney Robin Hood movie, screaming, "Get out of my church." And then my kindergarten teacher had to tell me to stop breathing like Darth Vader, which I did all day long. She's like, you gotta stop doing that. So I was like always just doing goofy voices, and then I've been able to get paid peanuts for that. So yeah, so that's me.
I'm like fangirling so hard up here right now. I don't know if you guys can tell, but how I got started was how everything kind of started with voice acting was all because of Monty. I remember Monty found me at New York Comic Con, and he was kind of like, "You want to be a bad guy?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah." And he had this vision of kind of making this character that, or like putting me in this character that was so opposite of my personality. And he's like, "I really just want to surprise people with what you can do." And I honestly just, it was life-changing what he did. And I think he's just fantastic, and I think we should all round of applause for Monty, because
yeah,
I have too many feels. But yeah, and then I did Supersonico. Woo.
Yeah, one day my friend Monty said, "Hey, I have an idea for this really nerdy character, and I think you'd be great for him." Sweet. And then I wrote a character for Red vs. Blue named Felix that was a horrible backstabbing son of a bitch, and Matt went, "I think you should audition for him," and I went, "Sweet." And since then, I've questioned who I am. And then I wrote a really peppy, enthusiastic camp counselor, and Jordan said, "I think you should audition for him." And I said, "Sweet." It's really just been, I mean, I've been doing theater since I was in middle school, but before that I was in the Boy Scouts doing skits around a campfire and making goofy voices and parroting everything I heard from Monty Python's Argument Clinic and all sorts of stuff. And I would always impersonate my favorite South Park characters in middle school, and I don't know, I like doing goofy voices, I guess because I'm weird. And that's how I got here. It's pretty weird.
I know there is a God because I am here right now. You can't write this stuff. You know, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far off, before the mountains formed, the dinosaurs ruled the earth. I've been acting since I was very young, like most of us, did a lot of theater. And about 18 years ago, I was living and working in Houston, and somebody said to me, "Hey, I was working on a video production," and they said, "Hey, you've got a lot of background in acting, don't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "You should go and audition for this place in town called ADV Films. They buy these Japanese shows and they dub them into English, and they're looking for actors." Now, what I did not say was, "Well, how much does it pay?" Or, "How is this going to be distributed?" All I heard was acting. And as an actor, you want to act. You look for chances to act. That's all you really care about, is I want to do the thing I love. So I went and auditioned, and I got cast as Vega in Street Fighter II. And it was the weirdest thing, because I'd never done any kind of voice acting work. And I thought, well, I left that day, and I thought, well, that was a fun, one-time weird thing to do in my life, and I'm going to go back to the normal things I do. And a couple weeks later, they called me and they said, "Hey, we got another show. Do you want to come and be in it?" And I was like, "Okay." And another and another and another. And then fast forward a couple of years, and I was invited to an anime convention. Now, I'm a Star Trek fan, and I went to Star Trek conventions when I was a little kid, but I didn't even know there were anime conventions. And I went, and I met people from Funimation, and they said, hey, you want to come up north and be in Dragon Ball Z? And I was like, okay. And then started doing work with Funimation, and then met people from New York and did Pokemon, and then meet people from LA and start doing Vampire Knight, Naruto, and all that stuff out there. And I could have never planned this. This is where I was going with that comment. I would have never imagined in a million years that any of this would have ever happened when you step through that door and you have no idea what's on the other side. I was a little kid. My friends and I would do voices from Speed Racer.
Oh, wow.
And I had no idea Speed Racer was anime. I just knew it was weird. You know what I mean? It didn't look like Scooby-Doo. It didn't sound like Bugs Bunny. It was just different, but I liked it. So fast forward all these like decades now, and I'm a part of this anime industry that I love so dearly. So I am extremely grateful because I didn't plan it. I had no idea it would ever happen, but I sure love being here.
I loved hearing all of that. Well, like a lot of other people on this panel, I started doing theater when I was really young, and started doing theater really young, and I got a lot of compliments on my voice when I started. People were always like, your voice is very strong. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And Tracy Ullman was like my hero when I was younger, and I would just like constantly watch Tracy Ullman videos and try to do all her characters. I was like obsessed with her. I did if anybody knows what humorous interpretation is in high school. You did HI? Yes. So I used to do Tracy Ullman humorous interpretation for debate and speech competitions. And yeah, it was so great. Anyway, so that's kind of how I started like playing around, and I really liked messing with my voice. And then I ran a theater company for a really long time. I honestly stayed away from doing any sort of like film or TV or voice. Like I was just kind of like, I am a serious theater actor. Look at my beautiful art. And after a couple of years of doing that and loving it, but also kind of being like, I want to do more, and I've always loved cartoons, and I've always been a huge, huge animation nerd. And I was like, you know what, I want to do more voiceover. And right when I was like, I want to start doing voiceover, I met Anna Hullum, and we became friends when we were working. I've told this story before, but we became friends while we were working together for the Austin Junior League. And she kept telling me about her husband's company. She's like, oh, my husband has this company, Rooster Teeth. And I was like, oh, I don't know what it is. Oh, tell me about it, please. And we would talk about it, and I kind of forgot that she told me. And like a year later, I see an audition post for Rooster Teeth, and I'm like, oh, that's that company. That's Anna's husband's company. I'll submit, my headshot, my resume, and whatnot. And so it was for Red versus Blue. And I submitted my stuff, and I showed up, and they were like, oh, okay. And basically, Bernie and Matt had no idea that I was an actor. They just thought I was like Anna's random friend. So they weren't paying attention to my audition at all. And then when I started talking, I just saw Bernie go, and just like look for my headshot. And he's like, wait, you're an actor? And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm here. And then I got it, and they were like, you're perfect, you're great. And that was really fun. So that's how I started my Rooster Teeth journey. And then I started working at DC Universe Online with Alex Keller, who is a badass, and started doing Lashina and a whole bunch of Green Lantern, like side characters, and I've probably voiced like 20 different characters for DCUO, just small little parts, random woman, random person on the street, whatever. And then while I did Lashina, and then Alex was like, hey, Arlene is retiring, and I was like, what? And then he offered me Harley Quinn, and I had a heart attack and fell on the ground and was the happiest person on the planet for a really long time, and I still am really happy about that.
By the way, I'd like to point out I'm the very first person to ever get a Harley Quinn figure autographed by you once you had the part.
It made me so happy when you were like, I have to get you first. And I was like, yay! Yes, please. I get to sign as Harley now. That's so cool. Yeah. So yeah, then just, auditioning and doing other shows and trying to get more and yeah. And y'all will like this because Sam and I, at that audition, that's where I met Sam. And for that initial audition, and we were in the same room, and I remember hearing her and being like, oh, this girl's so good. This girl's so good. And the CT side was like a paragraph long. I remember this. The CT side was really long, and the Carolina side was like 2 lines. It was 2 lines. So I remember thinking like, like CT, this is the character to get. Like, this is who I want. And it's still an amazing character. She's so good in it. She's so good. She's my favorite. You're the best. You're the best. Stop it. Accept your brilliant talent. And I was like reading it, and I was like, oh wow, that's so she's gonna get. That's so great. And then they gave me this 2-line character, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool, Turns out it's like this like super badass character. I like couldn't be happier to get. But I also got to meet the beautiful Sam Ireland there.
Very similar to everybody else on this panel. I grew up doing theater ever since I was like, I think 8. And in high school, if you have this in your high school and you're in high school, I highly suggest it. It's called, National Forensics League. It's a part of the speech and debate. And you can do, it's like competitive acting, and it's a 1-man show. You get like a 10-minute monologue, and for comedy, you usually play multiple characters, and you pop, 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 and you have different voices, physicality, and everything. It was one of my favorite things to do besides theater in high school. And if anybody knows the comedian Bill Hicks, I was this little 16-year-old girl doing Love All the People, his book, for my HI and
Oh my God, no
competition.
way.
And I went to state with it, and you could be a middle-aged man at 16 years old, but if you want. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard. You wouldn't expect I did that, but I did fall into voice acting. I'm not formally trained, and I hate saying that, but it's true. And Rooster Teeth had an open casting call, and I lucked out, and I met Jen, and I met Shannon. I met everybody there, and so I was CT, and then CT, and I heard that Ruby was being. I actually heard Ruby like voice of mouth like through the theater realm in Austin, and I went over to Brandon Farmahimi in live action, and I said, is there like a role I can audition for in this new show that y'all are doing? And I don't know, they said that, yeah, there might be, and then he sent me the picture of Nora, and I fell in love with her instantly, and...
Because she's the best character.
I love her so much. But, and it worked, and I went in there, and I felt great. She was a part of me, and instantly, and it was the best Christmas. I got the phone call that I was going to be her, and then Camp happened. I don't really do much voice acting outside of Rooster Teeth, to be honest. I'm auditioning like everybody else for commercial work, any kind of stuff. I've done voice acting for live action, which is pretty cool. But besides that, I'm just here in this realm, and I'm really, really grateful I fell into it, because it's something that I never thought I'd do, and I love doing it, and anyone who's interested, we all know why we love it. So that's it.
What I love about hearing everybody describe how they got into the business, for people that are thinking about getting in, or if you are right now trying to get in, is that there is no common thread. It's all sort of random. You just have to kind of start doing it. Maybe it's because you put together your demo reel and you're actually putting it out there, or you know people, or you just hear that there's an audition and you go for it. But I love hearing stuff like that. I grew up with these things called cassettes that Yeah, no, I'll
Tell us
explain it to you
more,
later.
Grandpa.
Yeah. Show of hands. How many people understand what you do with a pencil and a cassette? With the okay. Oh, my people.
There's still hope for the
Awesome.
future.
Okay, yeah. So, but I had like all the stories on cassette for Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark and a bunch of movies that kind of came out around then, and would just listen to them over and over and over and would fall asleep to them, and would then insist on doing all the voices, much to my friends' chagrin whenever we would play that stuff. And I hadn't realized how much just playing around as a kid and mimicry kind of laid a decent foundation for that. Cut to, here's a shocker, I was a big fucking geek in high school.
What?
Yeah, no, I know, spoilers, yeah. But mostly theater geek. So junior high and high school, did a lot of theater. I was formally trained in acting, which, by the way, made me so much money I went right back for a computer science degree, if that tells you anything. But I look much better off camera. So and people tell me, hey, you've got a good voice, you should start doing this. And after a lot of people kept telling me, no, you've got a voice, you should try something, I'm like, okay, give it a shot. And connected with an agent here in Austin and was doing a bunch of like real estate commercials for radio and things like that. And then we were talking about ADV films. So then I got this call, hey, do you want to do something narrative? Yes, and I wound up, of all things, doing the voice of Lei Wu Long in Tekken. It was my very first voice gig, and then it just kind of took off from there. So I did a ton of things through ADV. You can look it all up. Like one of the more fun ones that a lot of people understand is Sanosuke from Rurouni Kenshin. Not the earlier stuff, not the first episodes, but like the later part of the run. And then and just kind of kept going. And then did other stuff at the day job and was voice acting on the side, and started going more focused on production. Started working for Rooster Teeth, and had been at Rooster Teeth for about a year. I started off as a VFX artist on RVB 9, and by the time RVB 10 rolled around, that little magic fucking thing happens where they came down and said, hey man, do you want to record a line? Yes, I'm your guy. What am I doing? You are soldier number 2, and you're gonna, get shot here in just a second. I'm like, I don't care. This is awesome. So you've got the 2 Green Marines standing on a hangar deck early before the freelancers land on the hangar, take the guys out, and just blaze through and keep shooting everything up. And I was thrilled to have anything in a Rooster Teeth piece. And then the guys from Smosh visited, and they re-recorded the lines for the guys from Smosh. So it wasn't until much later with Ruby that, the Monty factor kicked in, and was doing compositing and some editing and stuff on Ruby. And then Monty had like, oh, hey man, you've done voice acting before. I'm like, yeah. What are you doing here? Was his question. I'm like, oh, I'm, doing production stuff now. And but then he asked me if I wanted to do Torchwick, and the rest is the rest. I kind of like to tell a story when we have guests come visit us at the new Rooster Teeth Animation Studio, which is down the street from where everybody else is. And the cool thing about it is I'm glad that we can finally give everybody like a real audio booth to record in. The history of Rooster Teeth can be told through the history of recording for the show.
Yes, it can.
Yeah, so it started off, I think, their first recording booth was Bernie's closet in the back of his apartment. And
Which, to be fair, is, if you don't have a home studio, the best place to record audio.
No, seriously. And point C, again, hey, pay attention. What you do, you just need to find the most sound deadening corner of your house or apartment or whatever. And in their particular case, it was his bedroom closet. They would leave the clothing hanging so it would deaden sound more. They would hand you a mic and a script, and presumably, either a flashlight or turn on the light and say, go in there and record your lines. And then after that, they were downtown for a little bit. When I came on board, they were at 636, and it was still literally a closet, and it shared a paper-thin wall with the company bathroom.
True.
Yeah, so what we would do is whenever we were recording folks for RVB, we would put up a sign at the bathroom door that says, please don't use the bathroom right now, recording in progress. And everyone's like, screw you, I'm gonna go. So, we would be bringing these professional actors, and we'd be like, okay, hold for flushing. they're washing their hands now. Oh, at least they're washing hands. That's cool.
I think we got
And
like,
they're done.
I think we got like one good fart recorded. Yeah, but it was like deadened and like distant, like very distant, like. We know what that was.
And,
Something was dropping.
And then, yeah, no, it's just been amazing to see that, you know, Rooster Teeth cares about its actors, and they're, you know, we're investing in like really cool environments now. We want to keep everybody in a good place, and so you can kind of be comfortable and play around and run around to the booth if that's your thing to warm up.
I think Miles of all people can attest. I say that every time I come to the new booth, how much I love it, and I physically run in circles in it every single time.
Yes.
I'm not exaggerating.
No, he's not.
It's
He's very,
fantastic.
very.
Although
animated.
the last couple times I've come in to record, I'll go to adjust the mic because I'm a little taller than most of the actors, and they'll be like, no, don't touch that there. Miles broke that.
Miles broke it.
Oh, you have
broke it.
to do this. You have to only move this knob because Miles broke it.
Alina doesn't let me adjust the microphone anymore. I over-tightened it.
I was going to say, too, just thinking about everyone who's up here right now, for us, or like our generation, for lack of a better term, me, Michael, and Miles, and I assume Jessica could relate too, is like we got our start with loving things like anime in like 7th grade. So Toonami was a big factor for that. I feel like that's the gateway drug. It is. It's the gateway drug into anime. They got us. But I mean, we grew up looking up to these voice actors and hearing their performances, and for a lot of us, that's people that we're currently working with now. I mean, like Vic obviously comes to mind, and then I was a nerd, and I came up to Gray at work, and I was like, "Did you voice Sanosuke in Rurouni Kenshin? I love your work." But it's very awesome to be able to work with these people, and these people, again, who we've looked up to for years and years and years, and now here we are. So
So
yeah,
what she's
again,
saying is that some of us are old.
Yeah. if you need some blood thinner later on, I'll give you
Yeah,
some.
just a little bit. I'll go for it.
Let me. How many people here have recorded off of another actor at the same time, or has everyone always just done it, you know, one track at a time?
What do you, you
Well,
mean
like you're the only person in the booth, or not, or do you have another person that you've been able to act to, and which do you like or not?
Well, Shannon and I got to record together.
Yeah, we did for
this year, which was-
RBD 15. We recorded the Washington, Carolina stuff together. That's the first time Jen and I had done work in the booth at the same time. It's great. The setup is, I think you're going to have to take it up a notch again, because the setup was a little weird, so that we wouldn't pick up each other's dialogue on our respective mics. We did all of our acting with our backs to each other, which is a little weird because it was a super intimate moment. I'm touching her hand and all this stuff, and we were back to back.
We should get mirrors.
Right, we do very, well, it created a lot of like hilarious moments where we're trying to connect, but like I can't see him. So like when we talked about this at the last panel we did yesterday, but that last moment where we have that, you know, the little car wash moment where we grab hands, we get a little finger hand action, and but when we were going to record that, and then he has that really.
I have a very suggestive
Very
line
suggestive
that I said
line.
as suggestively as I possibly could.
He said it. It was like Buffalo Bill, y'all. It was the creepiest shit, and I broke.
I want to hear it.
I broke down.
I was like,
laughing.
I'm going for this line, y'all. I mean, I didn't tell anybody in advance.
Go, dude. Go. Do it.
Take off your armor.
Vagina shrink into body. Awful.
And then she screamed and started laughing, and then then the directors were like, you dial that back a little bit.
Yeah, maybe not. Pull that back a little bit, Shannon. Maybe not that. Maybe not that.
Well, cool. We could probably keep geeking out for forever, but why don't we take some questions from
Yeah,
the audience?
questions are always
We
good.
got some
Oh yeah,
microphones
feeding
in the
frenzy.
aisle.
Calm and orderly.
Calm and orderly.
fashion.
Yeah, it's okay.
Don't you run. If you run, I'll be like, get out of here.
Take off your armor.
I was about to say.
Well, cool. And we'll start over here to my left.
Hi, Lindsay, Michael, from all of us, congratulations on Iris.
Oh, thanks.
We'll all be looking forward to her autograph session next year. One thing I want to know, do your characters like ever bleed into each other? Like, does Ozpin and Quartermaster ever switch jobs? Does Edward Elric ever talk like a drunk bad luck charm?
I want to answer the Ozpin Quartermaster question because it kind of came up the other day. I've realized that if Rooster Teeth has a property which they may need a character who perhaps is immortal and exists outside the bounds of space and time, I will probably end up doing that character's voice. So their voices aren't very similar, but I feel like I'm being typecast as an immortal. So there you have it. I'm 750 years old. That didn't answer your question.
I'm fortunate enough where I've got Sun Wukong and Max, so I'm pretty separate there. They're pretty polar opposites.
There are times when I'm doing Space Kid and it becomes a little too Ruby, but luckily, like, I guess whereas, well, both of the characters kind of accept, like, people criticizing them or talking shit to them, they're just like, yeah, it's okay, like, no big deal. Thanks, Max. So that's totally fine, but I guess, like, the timbre of the voice sometimes gets difficult, and we have to re-record. There's a few times where, like, I don't know, Ruby will bleed into Space Kid and Kimball, etc.
I think if I'm ever doing Locus with any other character, I know I've gone wrong, so it's...
The fact that you could bounce back and forth between General Donald Doyle and Locus was still something I thought was super cool about working with you in the Chorus trilogy.
And they kept scheduling on the same day. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, seriously, there's get Gray in the booth and get everything for the next couple of chapters of RVB. So it'd be, yeah, Doyle followed by Locus.
Which, essentially, the difference between those two is a glass of whiskey. Both David and Jean scream like a girl.
Oh, I mean, I could do Cinder and Sonico together. I feel like that would be a terrible combination. That's all.
Oh, cool. Thanks for the question.
Edward Elric plays with no one. He's a loner. You know, I think you're talking about combining characters, right? Is that
Whenever it bleeds over.
you know what I would say, and I think this is like a teachable moment from a voice acting standpoint. Voice acting is about acting. It's not about changing your voice with every character you play. Some of us have very recognizable voices. And it's very easy to go, oh, that's so-and-so, or I recognize that voice. But when we're cast as a character, the goal is not to change your voice to some voice you've never done before. The goal is to play the character honestly and authentically. I've often used the example, like, you know, you take a popular actor, you know, Robert De Niro. He's played 1 million characters, and he always sounds like Robert De Niro. Because his goal is not to always change his voice. His goal is to play the role. So it's more attitude. A lot of characters, you could pull one line from 10 different characters that you've played and string them all together and go, oh yeah, that's clearly the same guy. But if you watch each of those shows, the character's personality and their attitude is different. And that's really where the acting comes in, as opposed to just voices. It's really about acting. So they can kind of bleed over unless the actor is really focused on the character, you know, on playing the character and communicating the character's personality.
You mentioned the one line too, and I think we can all agree, but it's so awesome when you find that one line that gets you into the character you want to play. And that's like the best trigger to get you into the performance mode also. So I don't know if you guys want to talk about any lines that you have from shows that you play where you're like, that's it, that's it.
What's yours for Ruby these days?
For Ruby, it's, hi, I'm Ruby, like over and over again, introducing herself. Or, well, one teacher in particular, and then that's it.
Let me ask you, do you warm up differently for Chibi at all?
Not really. Chibi, it's the same voice, but it's a different thought and personality going off what Vic said. So like, it's happier, so you just kind of forget all the sad stuff that happened in Volume 3.
You're still alive!
Yeah, Torchwick's was just always, hello, Red. It was just, yeah, just a couple of syllables, it's like, yeah, that's him.
I know Miles. knows this, and everyone, when I go into the booth, whenever I have to do Pyrrha, it's just lots of Jean, 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 Jean. I just say Jean's name like over and over, like get on my tippy toes. I'm like,
I would have
Jean,
expected,
Jean.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Jean.
Sorry.
Jean, I named my TV's Ren, Nora, Pyrrha. And he's Jean tries to be confident, but isn't. So it's a lot of, right, okay. David is just, good morning, campers. Oh, Max. And then, like you were just saying, honestly, Felix's voice isn't that different from mine. I'm just way more of an asshole. So I just go and...
Well, that's Carolina for me. I mean, Carolina's basically me, but just a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. It's the most like comfortable, like, oh yeah, I can live here. This is good. This is nice. I like this. Yeah.
I like doing Chibi Sun, because Sun is like if I was just a nice person. I think it's like right. That's what Sun would sound like. And then Chibi Sun is like him on crack. And it's just like I'm just like this going in there to do Sun. It's always some absurd thing he's doing in Chibi.
I think, by the way, I need to go ahead and schedule, if you guys have any more stuff for Locust to record, if we can like do that tomorrow, because it turns out convention voice gray is I'm already warmed up. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
That would be unfortunate.
I'm cosplaying as Soldier 76 later, and I'm just walking around going, we're all soldiers now. I've got you in my sights.
I need to leave.
We also get the benefit of working again with our friends or our coworkers, like playing off of Miles. I think of warming up for camp with Space Kid. Like sometimes he'll just talk down to me, and I'll be like, "Okay, whatever. Thanks, Max." Or for Max, when Michael warms up with you, Michael, would you like to demonstrate what you do to warm up, please?
Are you ready to go, Max?
No.
No, come on.
No.
Come on. I
Suck
know
my dick, David. I don't want to do it, you piece of shit. I hate camp. I hate everything. I hate nature.
Love that energy, Max. Keep it up.
It's hard to like keep like doing Max. He's like up there where like I'll lose him sometimes in the middle of doing the line. So I usually warm up like that, but it's funny in the middle of line recordings. We'll be doing a line and I'll be doing the line and be like, well, I don't know. Suck my dick. Suck my dick. I don't know about that, you motherfucker. I don't know about that, you fuck. Like, I do it all the time.
By the way,
A master craftsman. A master craftsman.
bonus points to the fan who goes ahead and takes the audio of this panel and animates that moment. By the way, before we move on, do we have any other voice talent that has worked for Rooster Teeth here in the audience? I thought, yeah, hey, so stand up. This is William Orendorff, everybody. William. Let's do it. Do you got a second? Can we pull you up here? Yeah. You got. Oh man, he's booked. I'll tell you what. I was going to tell you what he's done for us before. I'm just going to let you hear it. Yeah. Come on up.
This is about to blow your fucking mind.
Y'all giving me a case of the vapors. You want to direct me? Oh, shit. Give me something. Which one? You want the little one or the big one?
Well.
Gum, sorry.
William has been doing the voice of all the Grimm ever since Volume 1. And these days,
like literally all of them, like even the weird, creepy, like clicks of the Deathstalker and the Seer as well.
Yeah.
The Knuckle Levy, that's well. It's like, and then he also plays Hazel, the softest
Hazel,
spoken of
Volume
the
4.
evil characters.
Yeah. And how about our sound team? Is anyone here from the audio team for Rooster Teeth Animation? Hey,
Hey,
Mr.
Kyler.
Kyler.
Hey,
Stand,
Kyler.
Kyler, stand.
Get up,
Sorry,
Tyler.
Scripture
Get
Professor
up.
Tyler. Let's have a
Seriously
moment.
though, like the first time we saw Will do any one of the Grimm, I remember Carrie and I were looking at him through the booth, and he did this like, I can't fucking do that. And I just remember I turned to Carrie and I went, what the fuck? He's not human. So awesome.
It brought up a good point though too. Like you think of voice acting as just playing a character, which it is, and you get to speak whatever language you speak. But there's also voice acting opportunities with just playing creatures or making certain sounds or things with your voice. Like D. Bradley Baker comes to mind immediately. That guy can do anything. And same thing when you watch him do his voice recordings, you're like, what the fuck is happening? This guy is nuts. But he gets the jobs.
What's also interesting is that even if you're playing a main dialogue character, then you're still going to have to do a lot of vocalizations for gestures, for action scenes, for subtle emotional moments. There's a little game. I can't remember who dubbed it. I've forgotten if it was Carrie or
it was me or Carrie. I don't remember.
Yeah, it turns into a little game of what we call pooper sex.
Yeah.
So we record, we call them efforts, fight exertions, taking damage. I have found that offensive efforts sound like you're pooping. Whereas taking damage sounds like sex.
Yep.
I feel like that plays a lot about like your sexual life.
Are you a bottom?
Thanks, Jess. My parents are in the front row. Hi, Mom. I'm an actor now.
Seriously, that was the thing that you objected to? Of all the things that's happened on this panel, that bothered you?
All the things you've done, Miles, really? That's it? Yeah.
Let's take another question.
Yeah.
Take
off your armor, Miles.
What side are we on next? All right, go.
Thank you, audience.
All right, well, I'm actually a writer, but the thing is, I see like Miles and a lot of the other writers in Rooster Teeth, and actually a lot of other things, they voice a lot of their own characters. Now, I'm not very confident in my own voice acting skills, but would you say it would be, you would say go for it for trying to do your own character's voice? Because I would think no one but the writer would know the voice exactly, as that's the one you were going for.
I think the question was, if you write the character, is it easier to voice the character?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends if you're also directing, because if you're directing and have written that character, then yeah, you probably have a really fucking good understanding of that character. But one of the things I love about voice acting is I'm kind of a pudgy white dude, but I can be a sword-wielding knight or a villainous mercenary, or I can be Cinder sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, so the only way I was able to do Cinder was because I had Miles do all of Cinder's lines first. And listening to Miles do sexy, sultry, evil woman is my favorite thing. And I need you to release that. It's so great.
Miles doing any character that's not him is amazing because he commits to it. Like, it doesn't matter that it's not ever gonna be used or ever gonna be heard. He doesn't fucking care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
I salute you. Greer.
Sarge is my favorite to do.
Simmons.
Fucking, all right.
So it's great. It's
Oh,
great.
Roman, you'll know what you need when you need to know it.
So good.
It's fun.
So good.
But what I was getting at though is like Vic was saying earlier, which I think is 100% true. Like voice acting is acting first, and then maybe extra voice stuff second. But like I couldn't do like Hazel. I couldn't do Locust. Like, so yeah, I guess I still like Felix in the later years. Like Matt was the one, because at first I was like, I sound way too young to be Felix. So Matt was like, nah, give it a shot. And then once I was like, okay, cool, I'm Felix. Yeah, going into the booth was really easy and made it fun. And also, in those days, whenever I was having a problem with an Xbox 360, I could go in and be like, hey, can I please record some fucking Felix lines right now? Because I need to get some rage out. So that was good. I had to do Jean one time, though, and I was pissed. I was like, God fucking damn this shit. All right, Ruby, hey. Thanks.
Thanks for the question. Next.
It kind of ties into the whole acting thing and warming up to become your characters. I was wondering how you would take the direction you're given for Locus or David or Felix or Edward, Elric, and like find something in yourself that brought that voice out, like rage for Felix or being completely done for Locus. Like, where do you go to get these voices?
A dark, dark place.
Jessica just sits in a closet for a few hours by herself.
No, I just go into my comment section in every one of my social media things. And I'm like, all right, I'm there.
I mean, I think, but the key to acting, and I think the key to making any art is, I mean, there's some saying that like by the time you're 5 years old, you've experienced all of the possible range of emotions that you can have, right? All of these different depths of despair and love and joy and whatever. And I think the real key for being an artist is just finding those avenues into yourself to tap into those things. It's not like any of us don't have the capabilities to be any of the characters that we play from an emotional standpoint. So the real trick is just kind of that, whatever the inner workings are of like, how do I get in touch with that place? And sometimes it's hard to find those things in the character if you're like locked off those parts of yourself to yourself. But I think it's really, we've all got the capability to find those characters because we've experienced all those things. That's my take on it.
Yeah,
that's my take on acting in general.
I think it differs too for everyone. Like process, like what works for you isn't always going to work for the next person. So it really is like find what works for you. Like personally, I have been through a bunch of trauma in my life, but I don't like pulling from that trauma directly because I feel like it sticks with me. So I tend to use physical recall and physical body gestures to kind of bring emotions to the forefront. But that's me. So it kind of depends. It's different for everyone. It's different for everyone.
I think for me, I do daydreaming a lot, and because I'm a big Meisner nerd, so I like to do vivid imagination and vivid dreams and daydreaming just because I don't think emotional recall is for everyone. I haven't been through serious traumatic events, but I feel that I can recover faster from pulling from something of complete imagination, and that's what I kind of work with. Even though I don't play a lot of dark characters in voice acting, but I do like in other parts of the world of acting, and like everyone's saying, it's different for everybody how you get into that emotional depth. What avenue is good for you, and that gets you the best results too, and multifaceted results as well. So, but I think Gray, they asked about like Locus, what for you to like get there, right?
Oh, I mean, I think a lot of what everyone was saying was pretty valid. I would just tack on, you have to find what works for you, like you were saying, but it's also what worked for that particular day. Which also kind of goes to what Miles was saying, that there's some times where, depending on what's going on around the office, it's going to be really easy for me to go in and work out some frustration as Locus or maybe Torchwick. There's going to be other days where, you just have to have a different bag of tricks and bust them out differently for different days. And just a bunch of self-awareness and stay kind of centered so then you can go into the direction that character's attitude needs that day. It's kind of a rough way to explain it, I guess. But
I don't know.
You know what else, Gray, is that it all ends up having to come through your voice. There's a lot of different types of acting, right? If you're a stage actor, you have a whole bunch of things to draw from to communicate your character, right? You have your facial expressions, you have your body language, you have your costume, you have the makeup, you have a whole number of gestures. You have a whole number of things to choose from to communicate your character without ever saying a word. But when you get into a little box, into a little padded booth in front of a microphone, you can make mean faces, and none of those things will actually communicate. It all needs to come through the voice. And that's the little trick of it. I've seen really good actors, and I know you all have, really good actors come into a booth to voice act.
And they don't know what the hell they're doing.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't happen because they're so used to communicating through visual means and other means. Great film stars that you hear in animated features that are flat as a pancake because they're used to communicating with cute little faces that they do or some little shtick that they do. that you love on screen, but it doesn't work in voice acting. So that's really a trick. I've seen people that have been in a booth and they've been crying, and it sounds like they're laughing. I mean, that last single element of making it come through your voice, whatever that emotion is supposed to be, is really the trick. All of these acting and emotions and feelings, ultimately it has to come right down into the microphone. And that's the little trick of it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, to your point, like, the faces I make in the booth when I am doing any of my characters, dear God, I would never make those faces on stage or on film, ever, especially on film. I look like a crazy person. I'd never get work, like, ever. So it's, while I do use my face and my body for voice work, it helps, but I look insane. Like, it's just for me personally, I feel like it's different for, like we were saying, for every actor, but like, in order to help get my voice there and to really, really display the emotion for everyone, I play a lot of pretty intense characters, I'd say. And in order to get that emotion, like, I have to physically be really over-exaggerated in order to get that to come across, but like, that would look like so silly on camera. You'd never do that. But
branching off of that too, I know people ask me like, what do you prefer, voice acting or acting on film? And I think everyone I talk to say, oh, I much prefer film. You can actually emote like physically, and that will read for your character. I say, I think I enjoy voice acting because you don't have to worry about your physicality.
Yeah.
You get to look like a weirdo. Who cares? If it sounds good, it sounds good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very freeing.
Yeah, for Ruby especially, there's a behind the scenes video that Gray took where like, because Ruby's so high energy, like I kind of go into dolphin mode in the booth where you're doing a lot of this.
Dolphin mode?
Moving around like this, yeah. But hey, sounds good.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
I have 2 questions, but one's quick. Is that cool?
Sure.
Okay. Can you do the locust voice?
Yes. No.
It's like he's here.
Yeah, no, it's Locust is a man of few words, and thankfully it only takes a couple of... Actually, he's getting frustrated with Felix, also helps with Felix.
Hey, bud,
yeah,
how's it going?
Yeah.
Come on, one more murder.
Yeah, there's a great deal of just, speaking through, he tends to vocalize a lot, like this guttural stuff, this unfortunate, this one little punctuation.
Wait, Greg, can you do bedtime stories in that voice? I feel like I could listen to that when I fall asleep.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, what is like the biggest difference, do you think, between theater acting, film acting, and voice acting, and what do you all prefer?
Ooh, it's hard. Biggest difference? I mean, I think Vic touched on it a lot when he talked about, just the voice acting, it's got to come through your voice. And that's the only tool that is at your disposal in the final product, right? So I mean, for me, because I do all of it, I do all 3. Theater acting I love because of the immediate feedback from the audience,
Yes.
and that is an incredibly powerful thing. And I would never want to live in a world where I didn't get to do live performance, whether it's improv or scripted acting, because you and the audience are an entity that only exists in that moment, and the audience is a vital component of the performance.
It's so powerful.
It's so very, very powerful. Voice acting is really cool because of everything that everybody said. You only have one tool. It's like a drawing as opposed to a painting, right? You've got a pencil. You don't have a palette of all the different things. And then film acting is really cool. Film acting is really weird because
it's a lot of subtlety.
It's a lot of subtlety, and it's also, the process is so fractured, but so repetitive, right? So you're like, this scene that we're doing is like 2 people sitting at a coffee table, and you're having a conversation, but you do it 19 times because you have to get coverage from all these different camera angles. And so it's its own little thing where you can keep digging into it because you're doing the lines over and over again, and 80% of them don't make the final cut because they're just going to take the ones that work. So that's kind of cool, because like, you know, for
and
voice acting.
there's also more spontaneity in
Yeah,
film acting too,
yeah.
because
So,
you don't do rehearsals.
I love them all, keep hiring me.
So to jump on that, I mean, so for voice acting, you have everything that Vic and the gang were talking about, where it ultimately you only have the voice to communicate through, and so you have to be listening and be in tune with yourself and be used to hearing yourself and understanding that what you're doing, whether it's the tension in your throat or extra gestures that you're throwing around in the booth to add a little extra texture to things, what effect is that having? And then for film and theater, yeah, you still have the voice there, and I mean, that needs to ring true, and then it's the physicality of it. For me, because I did theater for much longer before I started playing around on camera, I had a whole bunch of bad habits I needed to break because, say we were talking about, you know, using Shannon's example for a couple of minutes ago, if it's a, you know, person-to-person conversation, we're just hanging out at a table, you know, this gesture's fine while you and I are talking, and, you know, maybe I'm doing this little thing with my finger that tells you that I'm kind of tense right now or whatever. If that's theater and we're sitting across from each other on a table on stage, the person at the back of the house can't see that at all. This is not going to read. Whereas, like, if it's an extreme close-up, you know, and it's projected on a 70-foot screen, you know, the more I move my hand is it's moving crazily across the whole screen. But in theater, you're going to have to kind of do this a little bit more, and you're not, you know, not cheerleading exactly, but I mean, like your gestures have to have that much more energy to it, so that they can kind of understand when you're frustrated and whatnot.
This leads to one of my biggest pet peeves in the world, which is radio pieces of theater performances. They always, I think they sound terrible. KUT, stop recording actors on stage doing their lines because it sounds so phony, but because it's devoid of the context of what happens in a theater. If you were in the room watching that play, it would seem normal. When you listen to it on the radio and there's none of the other stuff going on, you're like, God, these people sound so fake. I hate theater.
Well, it's the same when you film theater production. Like if you film a stage production, sometimes it works if it's
What is
something
this
that's
hokey
like,
shit?
Yeah, right, but sometimes it works. If it's like naturalism, like Neil Butte, or if it's something that's like a theater, the piece that's meant to be performed very naturally in a small space, it works on film, but most of the time, you could have an absolutely stunning production where every single actor is amazing, get standing ovations every single night, and you see the film version of it, and you're like, wow, I'm terrible. Like it just, you have to be in the theater for some of those experiences for it to work. But I'm also, theater's like, that's my baby. Like, that was what I grew up doing. That is my life and my favorite thing in the entire world. And I feel like there is no substitute for going and seeing live theater. The impacts and the effects that it has on your life and what it can do to change you, the way you can see humanity, the way you can see people and how things can actually affect others that have nothing to do with you. It changed my life. Doing theater and being raised in the theater, and I love it. I miss it. I get to do it every once in a while now. It's my favorite form of acting, hands down. It's just different. It's just different.
Just thinking, oh, sorry, I know we're out of time. Just thinking about different genres as well. For preparing characters, I don't know if you guys do the same thing, but since we don't have physicality when we do voice acting, where we have that luxury in film and theater, I like to listen to music or find a character's theme song, and that helps me find the emotion, whereas, like, again, with film and theater, you have the physicality that can sometimes lead to the emotion behind a character's performance.
Right. Well, you get to discover. That's what I love about theaters. You get to live the role from the beginning to the end. And with, like, film and voice acting, like, you go in, you do it real quick, you got to get there fast, and you got to be in. And with theater, you get to ride out the experience and experience the characters. I'm sounding like such like an art asshole right now, but it's so...
Goddamn hippie.
It's so rewarding. It's so rewarding. And to get off stage and be like, I fucking nailed that. Like you just feel like it's so, and you know, I don't know. It's great. I love it.
You know, I really miss theater. I did it for so long, decades. And now if I go to a stage play, I literally sit there I'm white knuckling it. I'm holding on to the armrest because I want to be doing that again. And but it takes a long time. You know, you have to commit a lot of time to mounting a show. rehearsals and then shows every, for how many weeks you're going to run. It's a big time commitment.
It is.
And I've always liked to equate conventions with you guys here at this moment. This is kind of the audience portion that you don't get as a voice actor.
Yeah.
You don't, when you're in the booth,
our talk
if
back.
you say something heartbreaking, there's nobody there crying.
Well, maybe
and if
Miles.
you say something funny, but if you know what I'm saying. If you say something funny, nobody's laughing. You're sitting alone doing these lines, praying to God that the emotion you're trying to communicate is going to come across. But you don't know if it's going to yet. In theater, immediately you feel it. If you connect with the audience, when you say something and you hear the audience go, you know they're there. You know what I mean? Or you say something funny a certain way with some humor and they laugh and you feel it. There isn't any of that as a voice actor. Yeah. So to come to an event and to meet people and to hear them tell you about a thing you said in this episode that broke their heart or that they laughed for days, that's the other side of the equation of that theater experience that you don't get as a voice actor,
Yeah. But speaking of the... Yeah, no, but speaking of that, there's also the live interaction, just hanging out here at RTX and getting to talk about this stuff. I think it was really, really cool for everybody to come out and chat about this stuff today. We're over time, so we're going to have to take off now. But thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Take care.